Gary Gerould. Thank you for joining us. As always, it is an honor. We appreciate your time, G-Man. Let me first ask you about Davion Mitchell. Were you a little surprised that he didn't play more in that second half when Curry really got it going?
Yeah, it's so easy to second guess, and I'm not much in the second guess mode. I would agree that I was a little bit surprised.
How impressed were you with De'Aaron Fox and the series that he had?
Tremendously impressed. I think that, people sometimes forget how tough it is when you're on the big stage for the first time. And I think it was a real coming out party for De'Aaron in terms of a lot of people in the East. And I happen to talk with various folks, New York City, other places on the East Coast, who are getting a chance to see De'Aaron for really the first time, and how impressed and how surprised they were. I don't think any of us have been surprised because we've seen what he's capable of doing in the 5 previous years. And this year, there's no question in my mind, he took it took the next step, thanks in large part to Coach Mike Brown, who, said one of the great things of the season from a coaching standpoint was that his guys allowed him, Coach Brown, to coach them hard. And I think certainly De'Aaron was among those. And I thought he had a terrific series. I was very, very impressed. And I think it's just, it sets the stage for a lot of really good years yet ahead for De'Aaron and his teammates.
G-Man with us here, Cattles and Ramie on Sactown Sports. G-Man, when you look at Fox, he's never going to tell us, and I don't think the team will ever tell us, but how much do you think his finger impacted him as that series went on?
Well, I think that it was fairly obvious just from a ball handling standpoint. There were different times when he was having trouble when he was trying to attack the paint to have full control of the ball. And I don't know that he would ever share, other than with his immediate family or his coaching staff, what kind of problems may have been created. But avulsion fractures, as I understand it, any way you cut it, they're no fun. And the fact that, he's playing with an avulsion fracture on his shooting hand, on the index finger, it has to impact everything that he does with a basketball. And for him to still put up the numbers that he did over the course of the 7 games, admittedly only playing, the last 2 with the fracture, still doggone impressive. And then I know, a lot of folks have been taking shots at Sabonis, which irritates me. I think people forget, he played with an avulsion fracture from Christmas on. He only missed 1 game. And sure, he had his hands full. The Warriors did a masterful job of taking him out of his comfort zone and realizing how impactful he was to any Sacramento Kings success. You don't win 4 championships in 8 years by just going through the motions. And credit to Steve Kerr and to their coaching staff and the tweaks that they made, the attitude that they brought into game number 7. And they were the ones who, masterminded that game, particularly in the second half. And I know you were talking about, the rebounding numbers and one thing or another in the third quarter. I've never seen anything like that where a team gets 13 offensive rebounds in the space of 12 minutes. It was extraordinary. And then Curry, doing what Steph Curry does, showing you that he's still capable of, taking over a ball game and putting up the big 50. I have just tons of respect for what the Warriors did. I'm disappointed, of course, that the Kings weren't able to advance. But to me, it's a big picture thing. And you look at where this team was back in October at training camp and where they ended up the season, I'll take that season in a heartbeat. I think it exceeded virtually everyone's expectations. And I just think that the stage has been set for, there'll be enhancements to the roster. There'll be changes that'll be made. I think this team is in a good position where it can be very good, very competitive over the next several seasons.
G-Man, you've been around a little while with this Kings team. You've seen some of the ups and downs of this organization. How would you compare? This might be hard to answer, but how would you compare the start of this new era in Kings basketball compared to starts you've seen before in teams that have made deep playoff runs?
I think it's a very favorable business of matching them up and looking at in terms of a comparison. You look back to the 8 years of success under Rick Adelman, where the Kings were in the playoffs for 8 consecutive years. And that first year kind of caught everybody by surprise, where they, really, turned the NBA world upside down. And it usually starts, you got to have a couple of all-star quality type players as your foundation base. And then you add various pieces, and then you try to find the right kind of chemistry where everybody, tugs on the same rope and does all the good things to make you a competitive team on any given night in any given arena. We haven't had that feeling for almost 2 decades, and it's so good to have that feeling back. And I think it compares very favorably with teams that, make steps. You look at, and of course there are always aberrations or differences where teams have a good year and then they fail miserably the next year. You got to be healthy. We all know that. You've got to be a little bit lucky. We all know that. But I'm a big believer in what Mike Brown and his coaching staff have done, guys. And when I look at the fact that he came in his first public appearance last June as a member of the Kings organization, had the assembled media, had people within the organization, had several players on hand for his introductory news conference. And he talked about identifying a soul within an organization and how every organization needs to have a soul. He talked about defining roles. He talked about accountability. And to see what he has done in addressing the familiar coaching cliche and the front office cliche about changing the culture, he has done that. And he's done it in a remarkably short period of time. And that's what makes me a believer. You've got a core group that are in their mid-20s. And I really think that they've set themselves in a position, as I said, to be good for years to come.
G-Man, thanks for the time. We always appreciate it. Great stuff. Fantastic season, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, guys.
So there goes Gary Gerould on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop.
You got to be feeling good if you're a Kings fan after hearing that, right? G-Man.
Yeah.
Picking you up today.
G-Man's the best.
That's a good feeling.